Paula, I'm going to start with you. When you looked at these numbers, what jumped out to you?
How after 4 years of Donald Trump, right, after hearing about the wall, after seeing family separation, after seeing hate crimes rise, after hearing the words, go back to your country, how is it possible that Donald Trump did 10 points better with Latinos in 2020 than he did in 2016? And I think there's a story behind that 10-point increase, Alicia, right? I think it goes beyond politics. It goes beyond strategy. It goes beyond Democrats needing better strategies, better tactics, better messaging, knocking on doors, not 2 weeks before, but 2 years before. I think what we're seeing right now and what we see on those numbers is that there is a cultural identity crisis that we are undergoing as a community that is completely splitting and dividing Latinos. And in this crisis, you have, on the one hand, Latinos that believe that in order to achieve the American dream, you have to get as close as possible to whiteness. And that is something that Trump gave them permission to do. And on the other hand, you have Latinos that believe that in order to achieve the American dream, you have to get as far as possible from whiteness. And that is a dilemma that I don't think we have seen clearly, right? Because I think the question for us and what I was thinking about is I have to change the way that I'm thinking about Latinos. It's not how I am looking at Latinos. It's how Latinos see themselves in this country. And those are two very different questions.
Paula, I want to stick with you there because you have done both parts of that work. You have done the political work. You worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign, and you have also done the culture shift work. So what does that latter part look like? I think we're all much more familiar with the tactics of building a call list and a GOTV plan and going door to door. Can that culture shift be done in the time between now and the 2022 midterm?
It's allowing yourself to have curiosity, right? I think many times in politics, we go after the numbers, we go after the talking points, we go after these segments, but it is giving ourselves the space to have genuine curiosity, the same way that people have very genuine curiosity about white voters, right? And about white suburban voters and white moms. We need that same curiosity to understand Latinos because we're changing. I don't even understand the way that I am changing myself, right? It's not just people that look like you and I, Elisa. It is Black Latinas. It is trans Latinos. It is indigenous folks. I mean, Georgia gives you the best example. In Georgia, the biggest thing that comes to mind to me are the indigenous Latino voters that I met in that state. We're not talking about them, right? And so the biggest thing that I would say is let's break our own stereotypes and let's have very genuine curiosity about how we are changing, what those nuances are. And that can really, really, really give Democrats what they need, which is for Latinos to be their biggest weapon and not necessarily their biggest nightmare, which we're sort of in the middle of that right now.
Juanita, you can almost feel the focus groups forming as Paula talks and the questions that emerge. So let me bring us back to tactics, because given the amount of time between now and the 2022 midterms, that is a lot of what Democrats are going to be focusing on. I mean, how do they take the data that they now have about what happened in 2020 and begin applying those lessons in the lead up to 2022?
Alicia, it all goes back to where the investments the party is making. Like, where are they putting investments? And we know polling and research is a place where it often is not put, especially in breaking down the cultural divides that Paula referenced before. Like, so getting into the nuance and recognizing that no demographic is a monolith. We see so many crosstabs as it applies to white voters. Apply that same approach with Black voters, Latina voters, AAPI voters, indigenous voters, and get to the source of what is guiding people's perspectives. Because as Paula mentioned, it's about a cultural, creative curiosity, but ultimately it's also about investment in fully understanding, because that is absolutely right. Democrats have been known for issuing a blanket message that doesn't yield across the board results. And so now it's time to get into the nuance, because what we saw in 2020 is that Trump and Republicans were able to tap into some of the fears of different segments within the Latino community, and whether that's related to socialism, whether that's related to immigration, whether it's related to the concept of the American dream. But now, when we see a 10-point gain for someone like Trump, after all of the harm he's done, it's time to counteract that with investments that dig into the nuance and reality of the lived experience of different segments of this community.
Paula, what do you think all of this means for 2022?
I think the big question Democrats now have to figure out is, do we go after those lost Latino Trump supporters? And can we do that while at the same time going for the more progressive, diverse Latino voters? In this moment, I am not so sure you can do both things because they are completely at moral odds. So I think that's the first question we need to figure out. Can you do both, or do you simply shamelessly go for the base and defend them with all the values that we claim to have.
You know, it is interesting to me, Juanita, because everything that Bao is saying about this broader context is true. Everything that you were saying about investment and where parties choose to invest is true. And we all know that this is all happening set against the backdrop of voter suppression laws taking place all around this country and in many states where you have a high percentage of Latino voters. So I want to pull this up. This is Pew looking at how Latino voters voted in the 2020 election. So 55% vote by mail, 27% in person early, 18% in person election day. I mean, Juanita, in as much as, you know, the party is going to have to think about policy, about delivering, about messaging, so much of what happens in 22, specifically when it comes to communities of color, is going to be about access and ability to vote.
That's exactly right, Alicia. It's about how to vote. I remember the focus groups I would sit in with women of color across the country, and that was the number one issue. They didn't have a clear understanding of how to vote. Granted, 2020 happened during the global pandemic, and we're all trying to figure it out. I think now that we see Democrats up against these voter suppression tactics that we know are most harmful for communities of color as well as young voters, the two demographics that continuously give returns to Democrats. This is going to be a big investment. We're seeing it in Texas with the coalition of progressive groups getting together that are going to run through the midterms and invest millions in making sure voters have the information they need. I think Democrats need to run that same strategy across the country, and especially in the 14 states where voter suppression laws have already been passed, because I think Republicans are banking on the idea that, okay, turnout in midterms is typically lower than in presidential years. And now with these voter suppression bills, that's also going to be a turnoff for voters who tend to lean Democratic. And so when fewer voters show up, Republicans do better. But Democrats know when more voters show up, they do better. And so these investments early on right now is what we need to see more of from the Democratic Party to be able to fully combat all of the barriers that we know voters will be facing in 2022.
Paula, I know that focusing on 2022 can seem myopic, especially when you're talking about a fast-growing portion of the electorate that is going to have the power to change elections for years to come. Specifically, when we talk about young Latinos, what is it that they need to be seeing now from both parties to establish the type of partisan loyalty that can carry for generations?
The most important thing they need to see is that the promises that were told and given to them are actually being accomplished, right? When President Biden talked about immigration reform, when he talked about climate change, when he talked about criminal justice reform, people didn't necessarily vote for him because they were loyal to him. It's because they banked on faith, because they believed in that promise, because they believed that the party truly, truly wanted that type of America. I think the most important thing young people need right now is to not be disillusioned. And the way to get that right now is to see those promises actually become realities. And once again, being very shameless about that, right? Having a party and a president and an administration that fights for that vision that was promised on the campaign trail. So I think what they need right now is what all young people need, which is to not be disillusioned, right? To understand why you're fighting, why you're voting. And the only way you understand that is if you see actual results.